Last week we heard my friend Reverend Dale talk about chemicalization. And he spoke about what can happen when we start integrating new ideas into our consciousness, into our life experience. And he gave a great little demonstration showing all the bubbling up that can happen when two things that are not initially compatible collide with each other. So perhaps we have experienced this already in our lives. We think we are doing something good for ourselves, and then we end up with even more challenges than we had before. And at that point, we can begin to doubt our choice, or even give up and go back and do things the way we always used to. But when we know what this is, and even expect it, know that it's going to appear, we can ride it out until things start to settle down a little bit. Like the new concoction that was in the glass at the end of Dale's demonstration. We often talk about consciousness being like a garden. We pull up the weeds, the old thoughts, the beliefs, the things that are no longer serving us or being beneficial to us in our lives. And we plant new seeds, the kinds that we want to see grow, the things that we want to experience in our lives. But there's this in-between stage, after the weed pulling, and before we see signs of the new plants. So before we contemplate making any change, it's important to pause and check something. Are we starting making our change out there or in here? We can change jobs, we can change homes, we can change the way we look. But without inner change, the old way always returns. I was chatting with someone a few years ago, and they had just recently moved to the Comox Valley, and they were telling me how they found it a very unfriendly place. And I thought, oh gosh, that was not my experience, but I kept listening. And so she was talking about, her experiences and the incidents that had happened to her and things like that. And she said, it's just like Duncan. They're the same way. They're so unfriendly. And I thought, oh, now that's really interesting because she's talking about two different towns that wherever she went, she was finding that people were unfriendly. What was the common denominator? Her. She was trying to change the outer circumstances to have a different inner experience. And it just doesn't work that way. Because until we have made some kind of shift in here, the outer world will always show up. It's like the path of least resistance. We have these beautiful mountains around us, and the rain falls on the mountains and comes downhill, following the contours of the landscape. It can't go any other way. It's the same within us. If we launch a new idea, like I'm going to move somewhere where people are friendly, our thoughts still follow the inner landscape, our consciousness. And guess what? We arrive at the same destination. In this case, another unfriendly place. It can't be any other way. Transformation is more than change. It's an inner process that has to start inside, where it can bubble a little, build itself, grow, take root, until it finally blossoms in its full capacity. It takes time for lasting change to take root and become part of us. So the first question we could ask ourselves is, are we sincerely embracing the change? Are we prepared to ride the ups and the downs of the process? Are we prepared to see it through until a time when this change is incorporated fully and deeply into our consciousness? As we initiate change, two things can take place: nothing and everything. So let's look at both of those. Let's start with the nothing is happening. Say, for example, we want to start a meditation practice. So we find a new style and we sit for 20 minutes every morning and nothing happens. We have heard so many great things about meditation and we know about the benefits of it, and we're not experiencing any of them. Well, we've planted a seed the desire to meditate, now the seed, nothing's happening to the seed. A little bit like our gardens again. Have you noticed all the things that happen to seeds? Some of them never sprout. Some, as soon as the first little green little sprout comes out of the ground, it gets eaten by slugs. Sometimes it's too wet, sometimes it's too dry, sometimes it's too hot. Sometimes we're just messing around with it too much. Early in the spring, I planted a whole bunch of chard seeds. And then, a few weeks later, I'm out there weeding the garden. And it's like, oh, look at all these little weeds, and I'm plucking them all out. And then another few weeks go by, and I noticed a couple that had escaped my weeding efforts. And guess what they were? Chard. So I had pulled out all my little chard sprouts. Luckily, a few of them escaped my attention. So that's in a garden. But how does that look in us? As we begin to incorporate or plant a new idea and nothing happens. Often we begin to question the outer things. So let's go back to the meditation. Well, maybe it's the wrong time of day. Maybe I should be sitting on the floor and not on a chair. Maybe I'm trying too hard, or maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I should be doing it twice a day. Or maybe I should just find a different practice. Nothing happens, and so we keep changing our approach. Or you may start to think you need to do more. Maybe I should do yoga and become a vegetarian and exercise. Resist the temptation to do more when it looks like nothing is happening. We need to give ourselves time to integrate what we have already started before we add more. It's kind of like a buffet. Everything is good. In this instance, yoga, eating better, exercising, these are all good. But we will not be well if we try to eat, or in this case, do everything at once. A tree can only bring so many fruits to ripen. Make sure you are not sprouting so many new seeds that you run out of sustenance to support them into healthy manifestation. Here's something else that might happen as we make changes. Perhaps we have exposed our seed too early. That it was not strong enough yet. It had not taken root. New ideas are fragile. They need protection. Protection and security from outside influences. New ideas, like seeds, take their own time to sprout and then start the new life within them. We need to allow them first to grow and gain strength before we share them. It's tempting when we're starting something new and we're really excited about it to share it with our friends. But what can happen is that because this new idea is so fragile, a friend's comments, even well-meaning, can cause it to wilt. So let's go back to our example. We tell our friends about our new meditation practice. We're so excited about it, and what happens? Well, of course, they share their experiences with meditation. It didn't work. Nothing changed. It was too hard. It took too long. It was the wrong kind. It's impossible to find the right kind of meditation. So now you see what you have exposed your delicate little seed to. When you have an insight, a new idea, a new way of being, you would like to incorporate into your life, protect it and nurture it quietly within until it takes root. As we integrate something new, it is necessary at the same time to release old ways of thinking or old beliefs. You can't do one without the other. And that can result in some of the turmoil that we can experience, like what happened in Dale's demonstration. We get sick. Problems arise in our family. Roadblocks crop up everywhere. So let's go back to the example of starting a meditation practice. Just when you think you're making headway, things seem to get worse. My back hurts the minute I sit down. As soon as I get still, my cat wants to go out. The meditation pillow I ordered got lost in the mail. No matter what time I choose to do my meditation, the moment I sit down, somebody calls me. So we start to doubt our choice. Maybe this was just a bad idea. It's important we do not stop at that point. Don't give up. Recognize that this is part of the transformation process. It's going to happen. Expect it. Don't be surprised by it. Don't let it halt you. Joseph Campbell has this wonderful saying that where you stumble lies your treasure. And what a profound statement that is. The things where we get caught up, the place where we stump, where we, pinch our toes, places where we fall down even. Look there, because that's where the gold is. That's where the treasure is. That is showing up so that we can learn something about ourselves. And that is part of the transformation journey, isn't it? Self-discovery. So if you find yourself in turmoil, slow down. Be gentle with yourself. Let things settle. Don't give up. These new thoughts are taking root. Give them time. We're all on the path of transformation. You wouldn't be part of unity if you weren't. So let's be prepared for some bubbling. Hold our new ideas close to our heart until they take root, and find the treasure within.